Welcome to another episode of Hidden City Ironworks. We're going to get into some teardown. Let's remove all the trim and get it ready to start aligning the panels, and we'll go through that today. So let's get started. All right, I guess we're going to probably start in the back here. There's a lot of, you can see there's been, like, this car's been painted like 36 bazillion times. And there's little, this is just, to me, this is just janky. We're going to paint the whole car. So we're not going to start pulling off emblems and whatnots, but I'm afraid that we're probably going to lose the VIN tags that are present on the car that kind of show you that, you know, back in the day, cars were still doing the stickers. I wonder if they're still doing it today. I don't know. I haven't bought anything new in quite some time. Been buying old junk, and most of it doesn't have stickers. So yeah, this fender still has it. The hood has it, and that fender has it. So, and it's pretty good. It's probably not a bad idea if you're ever building a car and you're going to maybe sell it down the road and you've disassembled some stuff, to document that you've pulled VINs and things, because there's a lot of legalities around that. Or if you're trying to say, hey, my car is all original, it's never been wrecked, and you're taking it apart, it's really hard to prove that. So this is probably not a bad idea. Even if you're not going to post it online, you just go ahead and make a video of when you're taking it apart where the VINs are, because, you know, you might want a happy buck or two out of your vehicle. So you might want to document that, and it doesn't hurt to do so. So I'm not sure where they all are, and maybe I'm just doing that for fun, I guess, for this video. But we're going to start by, pulling the trim off. I generally like to clean up a little bit, so I'll probably pause here for a minute and clean this up. With the snap of a finger, this should disappear. I don't know how to edit that, so it's gonna we'll just do it the regular way, I guess. All right, so I'm gonna get that cleaned up. I'm gonna get the camera set up, and I think we'll start pulling the trim off that needs to come off. Okay, let's look at the gaps. So one of the things that I had noticed on this car was that the paint, when you look back here, you're like, man, she's purty. I'm taking her to the dance on Sunday. And then you look at it and you're like, I don't know about that. So this was starting to blister when I first got it. The paint was like that big, you saw that. But look at the door gap. It looks fine maybe on camera, but the door's not in alignment, not by a long shot. This isn't even close here. This is like, the door's in too far. It's in too far up here, and it's out too far down there. Is this door twisted? I don't know. So what I did was I got another one from a junkyard way back when, just in case, because it's flush here, but the gap is pinched and it's not aligned. And is it a fender issue or is it a door issue? So before we start prepping the car, we're going to take the plastics off first on this episode, but before we start getting too far, before I take these off, I want to make sure that the door is in the right place in relation to the A-pillar, and then we're going to figure out why this is so far down. Is it the hinge out of alignment? When it's shut, doesn't move, but when you open the door and I lift up on it, those hinges are smoked. So could that be a question of hinges? Probably. So we'll probably figure that out. When you look at it from here and you come down here, I got a step here. It was really pushed in. I don't know if it's the fenders pushed in. The front seems to align pretty good. The bumper cover is trashed, and I have another one from a junkyard, of course, pick and pull. The hood's not latching, so we're not worried about that. I did notice that this gap is this is nice and flush on this side. So I'm just looking at orientation there. And this door doesn't sag. I don't remember if it does. It has a little bit of movement in it, but it's not like the driver's side. And this car's a 95, so it's a 95 with 130,000 miles on it. But this door shuts really nice, and it's still off a little bit. And if we're going to go through the whole process of putting paint on this car, then you don't want stuff to hit when you open it. When you open the door, when you get in and out, you don't want the door to sag and drag and scrape paint off of places that you've already painted. So we're going to rectify that before we ever lay any sandpaper to this car. I don't know if the sn95 came with painted mirrors or not, but I like them painted, and I see a lot of cars where they're not. So the negative thing about painting mirrors and stuff like that is that the chipping is just vicious. So you've got to use a stronger clear coat on that. And I have to figure out exactly how to paint these plastics so that they don't do this on me, because this just looks like warmed up dog shit from a field. It is just miserable paint. They sprayed over flaking paint with I have no idea what. The spider cracking, I just don't know what you can see on the camera. It's so hard to tell. The unhealthy texture that this car has. When I looked at it on Marketplace, it was wet. And you know the routine is never buy a car that's got pictures where it's freshly washed. And you look at the ground, and if it's wet underneath and the car's shiny, then it's usually probably not. So that's where we are with the gaps. The back bumper, this is pushed out. There's some funky stuff going on. I actually, the tail light was broken, so when I bought these new ones, I thought they looked, I always like these, are a little nicer anyway. And you can take these trim pieces off and paint them. So the other tail light was not fitting in here properly, so I've had to do some sledgehammer engineering to get this just to sit here, and I can clearly see that there's a body filler cracking here. So this is going to be a trickety treat once I take this bumper off, because it's being pushed out. The metal is too far that way underneath, and the rubber is not sitting properly, so it's buckling right here. So once I get that figured out, then we can get into prepping the body. But right now it's going to be a whole lot of trim removal. So let's get started on that, shall we? All right, so let's get the taillights out. Let's start there. Let's get the trunk off. Let's get the taillights out. How size is that? So you can see we've got some issues here. You can see where I had to kind of reshape this a little bit. It's crumpled, and not in a good way. Where over here you've got plenty of room, and that actually looks like that lines up okay right there. This is clearly under some sort of stress under here, with this being pushed in. This is going to be a pain. I can tell right now. All of this is going to be a pain because it's just not happy. It's not sitting right. You've got all this stuff. Like doing a quick paint job, you see, never is really quick, because you can paint over stuff and it's just going to create problems with your paint, and then you're dealing with, you know, slow process of it peeling off and coming off. Like whoever owned this car, they sprayed this 3,406 times, and it's just like, that's just, I mean, come on. I mean, was it really hard when you painted it to just do that? Hey, look at that, we're not painting the rubber. How did you manage that? You know, I took it off, and I maybe put some tape over this and some tape over that. I'm not making fun of anyone, but I am making fun of it, because if a professional shop did this, they should be embarrassed. All right, so we've got, I'm not sure if you can see it, but we've got some whoopsie daisies in there. And this rear bumper needs to come off next. And this will be on and off and on and off as we're getting things straight, because I see a kink up here. That actually looks like a body shape. If I'm going to put paint on it, I want it to be straight. And, you know, maybe wash that out. That'd be nice. That'd be really nice, Clark. Okay, so let's keep working. We've got this. Let's get the shocks off. Let's take the spoiler off. The third brake light is integrated. Got to pull the wiring out and then get the trunk lines up fairly well. So, oddly enough, with the amount of the kinks and stuff that are in this back of this car, but the trunk shuts fairly well. All right, now's a good time to start throwing stuff in here before you like take them off and kick them across the room and lose one. Try not to poke myself in the face. No matter how funny it is. And these shocks are smoked, so they're going in the trash. Not taking that off yet because it's holding me up. This one. One piece of garbage. Okay, let's get those off. See what that entails. Okay. I wonder if they make those new at LMR. We'll have to look them up, or if they're just covered in something, maybe we'll figure out how to refurbish those and not spend the money. Try to do this a bit on a budget, but the hardest thing about putting paint on something is when you put old nasty trim parts back on, it just looks so bad. And if your goal is for it to look as pretty as the paint, then it's bad. If your goal is to just slap some tractor paint on it, then there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just that that's what you're going for, then you don't need to do all this. You just close it up and paint over it and pray the rust doesn't come around in a year. One thing can and almost always will lead to another. I didn't think this through very well, but we'll just take it off anyway. One trunk lid removed. Set this on the bench. So as you can see, this had factory seam sealer in here. Now, you can, in some cars in some states, they don't necessarily need it, but when Ford built this car, this was all put on here before they painted it white. And as you can clearly see, you've got raw steel under there with no protection from the elements. So if you're going to paint your car and you're not going to do this, I'd say just don't waste your money unless you're kicking it down the road in a week or two and you need to Craigslist sell it quick. Then do whatever you want. But if you're going to drive it, or you're going to say, hey wife, would you like an sn95? Sure husband, what's an sn95? Don't worry about it, you'll love it. And then you want her to love it and not it be a rolling dumpster fire. You got to do this. And there's lots of guys that'll do whatever, and that's fine. And that's what's fun about hot rodding and doing all this stuff, is you do it to whatever it is that your budget can handle, plus whatever you intend to use the car for. And for us, we're going to probably want to spend a little bit of money on the paint and make it look nice. And there's the truck. There's the trunk number that I'll probably end up painting over. And once I lose that, I lose the authenticity that this came with this car. So I'm not sure how much of that number can be seen. But for my own documentation, should we ever have to sell this car, this is the original trunk lid to that Mustang. So now we'll take this out last. And as you can see, this is riveted in here. So that's staying. Unless there's a way to take it out, which I'll use the YouTubes and figure it out. Maybe this comes off. Maybe I could take this off so that this isn't flopping around and dinging this all up. So all right, so with that, for now, I'm going to move on to taking off the rear bumper. I'm just going to get it pulled off here because it's going to have to go back on and off for a lot of times. And then we'll do the side trim and stuff on the next part of this video. Okay, let's get into the mirrors. I had a hard time finding a how-to on this without too much searching. I figured I'm going to take these off and paint them. I think I'm going to keep them white with the car, but I'm going to take them off and paint them because they're going to... if you've ever painted a door, getting paint in here to lay really well, it's not ideal with the mirror in play. So the first thing that I think we're going to do, we're going to pry this apart. This is how I believe this is supposed to come off. And I'll probably break it, which will be exciting because I need to buy more parts for this car. That would be great. Let me find my seat cushion and I'll bring you. This is supposed to pop off of here. And I am really sure I'm going to break that. It just doesn't feel like that wants to come off, and it's really hard to do with one hand. So I might set the camera up on something. This is a fiasco. Usually when I'm going to pry against something, I like to use two things. If you can pry against it, it doesn't it doesn't dent, but it certainly does launch things just a little bit. Okay, so now that we have that off, I have access to what looks like, I think it's an 8mm screw here to take this trim piece off. This car has, as you well know if you've been following, has been just assaulted with other products. And there's evidence. That's what flew out of there. That's not factory. So that's not going back in because it's not wired. Well, it would help. It does have a Phillips head. And I'm not going to lie, your screwdriver would work a lot better if it weren't covered in seam sealer. I have just forgotten to scrape that off. All right, so that's nice. That comes off rather easily. I'm going to put this in here because, I don't know, just because I feel like it. How about that for a reason? All right, then we've got a couple of clips. I don't like breaking stuff, and everything is, when you're dealing with this stuff, everything is like one-time installation brittle. It's that brittle. It's insanely frustrating. All right, these look like 7/16, which we already had. So we're going to go ahead and believe that and see if we can't. Well, first we're going to pop these off, and then we're going to see if we can get the mirror out. I may want to take this apart further because I want to paint it, and I don't like masking mirrors off and you try to blow paint in there. It's just a real pain in the rear. So I'm going to see if I could take these apart further. But for now, this comes off, and I think I want to try and get these off and the rest of the trim. So let's keep working on this. Let's get this off. So far, just to recap, pop the cover off of your speaker housing, launch it on the floor like I did. It's part of the routine. It's just what you have to do. And then this looks like a number 7 or a number 8. I think actually looks like a 7, but it's got a Phillips in the middle, so you can use that. And then this comes off, exposes the 3 screws. You pop a couple of clips loose, and it should come right out. So let's try that. I'm going to try and not block the camera with my stupid body. Yeah, that broke. See what I mean? It's exciting. It's exciting to break the clips more than anything else when you're working on stuff. It makes you happy. A bazillion of those things. And I still have one, and I love it. Just don't drive it much because I have little girls, and they don't fit in the absence of the back seat. So it just goes to the meets, and every once in a while I'll take it to town because it's fun. All right. It was relatively easy. I'm going to go ahead and say that wasn't any harder than most. Just trying not to break the trim to get to the retaining hardware is your biggest concern. So this is what it looks like on this side, and this appears to be screwed in. There's a screw here. I'm not sure what it's holding. Feels like absolutely nothing. I'm not going to lie to you. Unless this is some sort of, maybe it's this rubber. Maybe that screw's holding on to some rubber. Honestly, it doesn't feel like that screw is screwed into absolutely anything, but I'm sure I'll be wrong. Someone could correct me on that. So that's how that mirror comes off. Okay, come to find out that this is a number 9. It could be an American size, but a number 9, American Standard, whatever. A number 9 fits on there perfectly. So we're going to just go with that. And I'm probably going to drop this down in here, which is always a thrill. There feels like there's some sort of plumber's dope on the end of this. There's one. They're small. It's the one difference between, I would say, people who ask me all the time, what's the difference between American cars and even today, like if you work on a Honda, you could take that Honda apart and you could use virtually a 10, a 12, a 14, a 17, and a 19 and disassemble the entire car, and in some rare small cases with the taillights, a number 8. That's it. But in one area, for example, the taillights, if they're 8, they're all 8s. They're all number 8s. If it requires a 10, it's all 10s. It's not a number 7, and then a Torx, and then a number 8, and then some sort of a weird number 9 like this, and then a 7/16 on the taillights. It's really bizarre. And on American cars, and I don't say all American cars because I've really been working on like Ford stuff in the last few years, and the trucks are just brutal because you never know. The trucks were like, hey, we're going metric. No, we're not. Yeah, we are. No, we're not. Okay, well, you go metric over there and I'll stay standard size over here. Great idea. But what about Torx? Well, we got to get those guys in here too. So let's throw some Torx everywhere. That's fantastic. Now we can call it an F-150. The end. Rant over. It really doesn't want to come out. There's got to be another screw somewhere. There is! So much fun when they're hidden. There's one on the, like you can't even, I don't even want to tell you how irritating it is where it is. It is, I'm going to need to get another extension. It's not even close. Let's try from here. Oh, yeah. Almost. But boy, that angle is stupid. You can see what I'm dealing with. That just felt like I stripped it. What is turning? It appears to be some sort of spring, and I've seen it on other cars. It's a spring that goes down in here and it comes up and hooks onto this convertible top to keep it in place here, but flexible. And I can show you later when I get you in here, when you're not hanging out over there doing nothing. I'll bring you in and show you the baling wire or the welding wire or whatever that is there. And I'm going to tell you right now, this side vent, I was told that these are non-functioning vents. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this car vents into is connected to a duct inside the wheel well. So someone was lying when they said these are non-functional because it's connected. And I don't think that's custom. I'm just surprised. I think I'm surprised that it's an actual vent. I always thought these things vented to nowhere. It's not in the junkyard, so I can't just mash on it. Like everybody else does. Maybe if I just gently, let's just give it a let's give it a tickle with a hammer. that is tight. How the heck does that come out? There's somebody watching this going, just yank on it. These little town blues. There's really a significant amount of stupid going on here. You know, I just figured it out. You gotta take the inside piece out first. That screw at the top is holding it in. Okay, so there's 3. That's why it wouldn't come out like this. I had no idea. I thought this is a convertible top, kind of a tensioner for this boot here, this rubber or this vinyl component of the top. It is. Baling wired in. See it? Just wrapped around itself and looped around whatever that is, and I know that that can't be right because that just looks ridiculous. That's supposed to have that other piece on there and it's probably broken. So now this should come out like so, and it has been slathered rather poorly in paint, and ironically, not ironic I should say, I don't know why I don't remember how I took these out. There's the 3 bolts to reach them from inside. I actually went to the salvage yard and got some of these because this is going to be an eternity sanding this and making it look nice again, and somebody dog crapped this enough that I just don't want to mess with it. So that's what it looks like. Air vent duct out. Not fun. A lot of overspray and stuff though. We'll have to address that. So that's how you remove a side vent out of a Mustang. Minus the stupidity, the swearing probably, and the fetching of unnecessary tools. Because it's once you get the 3 screws out, it pops right out. So there's that. Okay, now that we've got that little segment shot, we're going to take the convertible. I don't know if this is on hard tops or not. I just haven't really been paying attention. Probably are not. Maybe this is just a convertible. We're going to take these out because when we paint this car, we're not going to overspray stuff that's supposed to not be body color. We're also going to take the door latches off and the beige thingy there. And now we're going to take the side skirts off, the front one, and these are just clips in there. There's clips along the bottom. You pop those out and then you pry it down and you break all the clips in here. So I'm going to find out if they have them on LMR, and if they do, the link will be in the description. If they don't have them, nothing will be in the description. So the next step now is taking off the side trim, and then after that we'll take off this trim, and I know it comes off somehow because there's a screw right there and that connects to this, and there's a lot of overspray here that when I'm done I don't want people to think that I did it. And I might maybe replace this rubber too if it's available, because it's old. It's not, I mean, it's old. It's fine in here, but it's a little bit, you can hear the difference. That's where it's touching, you know, the lip of the car. And I think it's time to replace this, even though the car may not leak. So I'll find out how much that is. That's one of the things I don't have. I haven't previously. But you can see walking around the car, I think they painted it with a roller. I think they painted it so many times that there's paint on top of paint that's peeling off. I have no idea what it's going to do, so I'm going to get some seriously heavy-duty primer. If you guys know of a good primer to drop onto this car, especially those guys on the sn95 forums who are really helpful with me, can you put it in the comments, a really good primer that I could paint the color right over, but is really, you know, really nice, Clark. One of those kind. Just something that I could, for this car, because I usually use 2K primer like Omni stuff. It's pretty good, but this is, unless I want to block this thing down to bare metal, this thing is so bad. This car is so bad that I don't think paint's going to stick to it. I think it's going to, just that. Like, that's just insane. So if you could help me out with that. And on that note, I'm going to end it here for tonight, I think, and then we'll get back at it tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the morning.